while I was there, after the second day, I started helping him answer phone calls. And the rest is history. I've got, 8-figure med legal businesses now,
Damn, so you went from receptionist to 8-figure business.
Yeah, I went from like, dog, can I use your computer, to like, I run your whole and then you pay me to, I got really good at the management, but when I added in the marketing, and that's why, like, if you really want to go far and fast in life, you got to get into sales and marketing.
Wherever you guys are watching this show, I would truly appreciate it if you follow or subscribe. It helps a lot with the algorithm. It helps us get bigger and better guests, and it helps us grow the team. Truly means a lot. Thank you guys for supporting, and here's the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, from prison to Penthouse, Jeremy Sigal in the building today. How's it going, my brother?
Oh, amazing. Super excited to be here with the one and only, the great Sean Kelly.
Finally got you on, man. You got some stories to tell today, don't you?
I mean, I think I tell stories naturally. My whole life is a story, but honestly, I love to help other people not do the crazy things I had to do. So
yeah, you've been through some interesting phases. You said you used to get in fights a lot when you were my age, right?
Well, yeah, well, interesting enough. So yes, I did fight quite a bit, but most of the fights were never me getting bullied. Even when I was in prison, I got into more fights than anyone I ever met, but nobody was like trying to bully me. I get into fights because I'm a big brother. I got 5 brothers. I love people. I can handle the chaos, and I think that's what a great leader does, is they put themselves out there. And so I get into a lot of fights that other people are getting bullied, and I will step up and handle it because I can handle it,
Right. So in prison, you were defending people that you saw getting picked on?
Yo, get off my girlfriend, bro. She's mine. Well, in prison, a lot of the fights I got into had to do with other people disrupting the routine, the program.
Got it.
Don't knock off my program. So I had a 18-year sentence, and it was all BS, So I spent a lot of time in the law library. I got a lot of legal visits, and the problem is when you have crazy people acting out, even in life, it throws off everyone's program. So someone's got to step up and hush them,
Right. Yeah, it's a delicate balance, because if you get in fights in prison, don't they increase your sentence more?
Yeah.
So is that in the back of your head?
It's in the front of my head, it's in the back of my head, but that's how life is you can't take it too far. You have to, as you're learning, you have to put the right amount of pressure, the right amount of leverage, the right threat, You have to be very tactical. I think the greatest mistake most people make is they're very, they're undisciplined with their threats. They're very emotional, like, I'm going to sue you. Are you? Because you just said you were. Are you really going to spend the money to go to court and lose? Like, you should never say something you're not going to do. How I got out of prison was we had this brilliant thing called transcripts. Every word is documented right there. And I could go back 5 years mentally arguing what the DA said. And that's the problem with dating hot Colombian women is, they change their arguments left and right. And if you want to go far in life, you've got to be consistent. Your threats have to line up with your abilities and actions.
So. I love that. And seeing you conduct business and seeing you deal with legal stuff, I can vouch for you that you don't let lawsuits get to you emotionally.
I think lawsuits are easy.
Yeah, most people are scared of them. They're scared to be on both sides, but you seem to be very logical about them.
Cool thing about a lawsuit is it's just money.
Yeah.
I've had to fight with a lot more than that. Freedom, I have had my life on the line more times than I can count, and I'm totally comfortable with that process because I don't worry about the consequences. I focus on in the moment, am I putting myself in the strongest possible position for the win? That's why every day it's posture, hydration, nutrition. I work out well, but I build my relationships. I build my teams, I want to be able to fight, and I want to be safe doing it.
Yeah, I can attest to that, man. You work out, you're all natural, which is impressive for someone with your physique. Is there anything specific that you do that others don't do?
Do you want me to say it? What are you leading me to? There's a lot of things I do, and I think that's the best thing about success is how people get it. A lot of times people present their best image, and but when you go deep with people, they let you down. It's like, well, what shortcuts are they taking? I don't take shortcuts, So when it comes to, for me, I'm in it for the long run. And so one of the things I do is I'm really big on posture. I'm really big on nutrition. I try to cook and eat with less ingredients. I drink a lot of water. I think if there's one thing I could give the audience today, and I'm this one thing changed my life. When I wake up, the first thing I do is I pound 1.5 bottles to 2 bottles of water before I do any coffee or tea.
Wow.
And I pre-hydrate because they say like water will actually wake your brain up more than the coffee will anyways.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's oxygen in water, H2O, playa.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. So you will wake up and you preload with water. Water is like oil for your car. All your organs function at an optimal level. You're, metabolizing your fat better. So yeah, I hydrate well. And when I work out, I have excellent posture. I don't cheat. I tell people I lift a lot heavier than you, but I also lift a lot lighter than you. I'm okay walking in the gym and grabbing those female chrome little weights and doing my little 10-pound. He literally just spit. Yeah, I will pick up those baby chromes, and I'll warm up perfectly, and then I'll hit hard. And then another thing that I do is I'm really big on natural hormones. And I think, I mean, it's weird when you got to warm into the conversation, but I'm going to be straight up. I masturbate 4 times a day, and I'm going to tell you why, right? Because, I read this article when I was in prison, and it did a comparison with boxers. Does keeping in your testosterone or your nut, do you produce more testosterone by holding it in, I guess was the question.
Yeah.
And they showed when you let it out, you're going to actually produce more of it. And so, yeah, I do masturbate like 4 times a day, but I also have that like assertive leadership dominant mentality where, as you dominate other men as a leader and check people like in a respectful way, like you're just, being assertive, but you will release more testosterone.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, if you do it 4 times a day, is there any time for sex?
Yeah, on the days so exactly, I am prepping for sex. Okay. When I've got a date, I don't masturbate. In fact, if I happen to have slipped up in the morning and knocked one out, then I probably will hold out on that date because it's a first date. I want to give her my best, I got to compete with football players and so if I don't roll in there at the highest level, I'm going to wait.
And what is your approach with dating? Being someone with your looks, with your money, like what is your mindset when it comes to dating women?
So I date intentionally. I'm looking for my person that I can build with. So the things I look for in a woman is, I like stability, but I also like a leader. I like on a first date to take a woman out to like a group setting to an event and see how she socializes, see what types of conversations she has, see how she reacts when there's a woman with more money, more beauty than her. Is she a team player? Is she a hater? And you can learn a lot about character and see if that's someone you can help build that you can grow with,
Interesting.
Yeah.
When you got that 18-year sentence, what was the mindset like? Was it very down, or were you always willing to
Couldn't believe it. My lawyers couldn't believe it. I was thinking the other day, one of my lawyers, I was trying to remember what he whispered to me at the sentencing. Something about like sheeps and wolves and like trying to tell me just to shut up, But I'm watching that sentencing. I'm watching these judges get it all wrong. I'm watching the prosecutors present all this detrimental false information, which is how I got out of prison early. I was able to show these weren't like little errors. These were huge. But yeah, I got 18 years. And I remember the prosecutor telling the judge that they have to give me the max. It's the only way to protect the public. That this guy is the guy most likely to kill someone
Are you interested in coming on the Digital Social Hour podcast as a guest? Well, click the application link below in the description of this video. We are always looking for cool stories, cool entrepreneurs to talk to about business and life. Click the application link below, and here's the episode, guys.
I'm like, dude, the guy right next to me is like here for sexual assault. I'm like, here, I'm just driving a Dodge Viper, And so, yeah, I got 18 years. But I will say this, from like day one in prison, I had that mindset that I knew I wasn't going to do the whole time. I knew there was a pathway for me to get to the lowest possible custody and to get to the streets and out as fast as possible. And I did do that. In fact, I wrote thousands of pages to the state Supreme Court, and eventually I won my freedom. I got an order from the state Supreme Court that was so rare that given to the prison, it took the prison 2 months to learn how to comply with this order because they had never seen it before.
Wow.
But that's the point, is like people don't have the answers you think. You got to go out there and find these things. Stop listening to everybody's perfect, message. Like, go figure it out. You'll make great happen.
Yeah. And I feel like that mindset was a huge role in getting out early too, because a lot of people get that sentence and they just deteriorate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They'll get a huge sentence and you could see it on them.
So I was reading up on some prison reform stuff yesterday, and here's the sad thing is, prison it's like chess. How you play prison is how you play life. And a lot of times we are walking into these groups and we are on the group's narrative, and people go into prison and they don't know how to get out of that narrative. They just want to be cool. They want to gangbang and politic and do drugs. And, you don't want to be the guy that's not doing any of that because now you're a target. So like, how do you delicately balance both worlds? And so I was a leader in prison. The way I added value was, number one, I had this rule, like be seen from afar at first. Don't like rush in and like, Oh, so great to meet you on day one, like in any new group setting. Always kind of sit back and let people see you in a light most favorable to you. And this way, when you do introduce yourself, they're coming at a higher level and you're already on that level of respect. A lot of guys roll in and they roll out fast. They're torpedoes. These guys are used. But for me, I had good posture. I had good friends. I worked out a lot. I got into the law library. I ended up getting a job in the law library. I was the only white person without a life sentence. In fact, I was the only person without a life sentence in the law library that got hired.
Wow.
And I was the only white person. Prison was racially segregated. So I was the one white person that could go to any area of the prison. And I just, I always did well with my leadership roles.
And I feel like your words, the way you articulate, present yourself, has saved you in certain situations.
Oh, absolutely. So it's interesting. I've recently realized that I have a borderline personality disorder. I know that because I date women that have borderline personality disorder, apparently. And so it's usually when you're triggered, you're very emotional and you lash out. And in prison, I had to learn, like, if you use the wrong tone or you use the wrong word, you were literally dead.
Wow.
This is so sad. The conclusion of my first book, my best friend Mitch, he just got murdered in prison, like the same house I was at, It's real. People die in prison. So I learned how to manage my tone and my words. And also, but I think the reason I thrived in prison was I have that no hesitation mentality. If it must be done, you do not hesitate.
Wow.
And in fact, when I get my new books, because I've written 9 books, I always autograph the first copy that comes in. In my very first book, I wrote, "Never be afraid to do what you must." And I think that mentality kept me going because people don't like aggressive people. Nobody likes a bully. Nobody wants to get pushed around. They might stomach it, but they're not going to like you. Right. So leadership is all about how do you tell people what to do while maintaining their admiration for you. And that's not an easy thing to do. And that's what I like to write about.
I love that.
Yeah.
And in prison, you were outnumbered, right?
Yeah. I mean, these are actual Jew stars from the Aryan Brotherhood. These were actual gifts, There's no Jewish people like in prison, and all white boys are all swastika, Heil Hitler, So yeah, I didn't fit in at all. You would think I would be an ultimate target, but instead, the story was the prison officials coming up and saying, everyone called me GQ in prison, by the way, like, GQ, how come these Nazis always elect you to be a leader, And that's why I better hope to God race ain't the most important thing about you.
Right.
Yeah,
at that point, it's just skin color, right?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Everyone walks through life and they're always a victim, and they talk about the color of their skin. It's like, dude, your race, your religion better be so far down the list from what stands out about you as a man.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that most people are filled with weakness, and that's why they're so easily thrown off their path.
That makes sense. Now, getting out of prison, the return rate is so high, right? It's like 80% or something.
Yeah, I think it's higher. Yeah.
Was that in the back of your head as well?
Never. I mean, the only thing back of my head is like, I don't want to go back, but I saw why people go back, and they never really, they go into prison, they never really leave. From the day people go into prison, they assimilate and they play that whole prison game, and they come out with the same mentality. So it's like, if you can't do the right things inside, you're not doing the right things outside.
Yeah. So walk me through that. Just getting out, you're broke. You probably don't have a place to stay, right?
Yeah.
How did you get millions of dollars? What was that like in between?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the short story is the first time I went to prison was for growing marijuana. And so, when you get caught growing weed, they raid your house, you have nothing. So when I came out, I had got a $500 rent voucher from the state of Nevada that I used to rent a room I found on Craigslist. And that was what I had. I had a room for rent, and then I had food stamps from welfare. And then down the street was this law firm, and I kind of knew this lawyer. We weren't friends, but I just kind of seen him in the gym a couple times when I was younger. And I just said, "Hey man, can I use, you got an extra computer I can use to do my resume?" And I was using the computer to do my resume and send it out for interviews to try to get a job for marketing. And while I was there, after the second day, I started helping him answer phone calls. And the rest is history. I've got, 8-figure med legal businesses now,
Damn, so you went from receptionist to 8-figure business.
Yeah, I went from like, "Dog, can I use your computer?" to like, "I run your whole and then you pay me to, I got really good at the management, but when I added in the marketing, and that's why, like, if you really want to go far and fast in life, you got to get into sales and marketing. You got to be the person bringing in the money to the company. Everybody always wants to start a business, like business. Like, dog, if you can't do sales for that business, why would you want to start your own?
Right.
Go add value. Go within a company and add value to them. Then go replicate it.
Yep. Sales is one of the best skills to learn. You can apply in any industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So learning that, and then now you're doing it for even bigger firms, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I had a knack for dealing with difficult personalities. When you're talking about dealing with lawyers and doctors, these people, they're always right. They have all the right information. They're very difficult to sway. But as a man, I have a lot of depth inside. And I'm able to communicate in a way that people respect that. They can say, here's a guy that will back it up. This guy means what he says. And, so
The word is
it was really easy for me to converse with lawyers and doctors. I will say one interesting thing. When I started, I was really nervous. I did not think that my time mattered as much as when I'd be on the phone with a lawyer or doctor. I always kind of rushed through because I felt like, oh man, they're so much more important than me, and they're not. Everybody has their role, and so that was big for me. Now it's to the point where like I won't stop talking. I don't give well, what your initials are at the end of your name, Esquire, MD. Yeah. I'm still talking. I'm telling you about the girls from last night. Like, listen, No,
that's relatable because growing up, you really learn to respect lawyers and doctors.
Yeah, they're the two untouchables.
Two untouchables. You're taught they make the most, but when you go back and look at it, entrepreneurs actually make more if you're in the top like 1%. Yeah. So the playing field is evened out.
Absolutely. What even more interesting is you see how much lawyers actually make. Most lawyers don't make that much. 80 grand, 120 grand.
That's it?
Yeah, a lot of lawyers, they don't. That's why a lot of lawyers, they'll go into the public defenders or someone that's going to feed them business, Yeah. But to actually be the lawyer that's bringing in the business, that's going to make millions, it's a pyramid,
I want to talk about your books. Did you write that first one when you were in prison?
Correct. Yeah, my first book's Prison to Penthouse, and it really compares the rise of leadership. It compares how how a shot caller rises to power compared to like a congressman or a CEO, and then what are the similarities in that rise? That was my first book, and I was in the hole for some fighting, and it was summer in Vegas in a flat top building. It was hot. You're coming out of the cell like once every 3 days for a 10-minute shower.
Damn.
So most of my day I was just writing. Interesting. I like to challenge myself. So a lot of the writing was poetry format. So I would kind of journal entry, but make it rhyme. And that was kind of how I started writing. And then I started having different topics every day with no direction. And then when I realized what I really liked, because I was lucky, I got to hang out with the heads of state and prison, the head whites, the head of the Mexican mafia. Most of my ink was actually gifts from the Mexican mafia. Because a lot of these guys had the best hands, you know? Yeah. And that was my activity a lot was with the Mexicans, the handball, the soccer. A lot of the white boys, they just wanted to get high in prison, So
most of the drugs were pretty rampant in prison.
Drugs are incredibly rampant in prison.
Wow.
It's most prison drama, riots. It's all stems from people not paying drug debts. Yeah, it's a huge business, and like I said, people don't have discipline in prison. I remember I got this one. I mean, luckily I put in enough work to be able to have it my way in prison. I did the right thing, So I got this one new cellie one time, and the Aaron Brotherhood came by, and they wanted to give him the drugs he wanted. He wanted like a $20 sack of like meth or something. So they pushed it under the door for him. I kicked that back to them. I said, he don't need that. We're good. Like, I'm not going to let him, put us both in a bad situation.
Wow.
Because that's what happens, dude. All this drama is over things people create.
Right.
It's usually over drugs.
Yeah. And then your roommate could bring drama into your room, and who knows what happens.
We both got to fight now.
Yeah. Because you got to defend him. Yeah. Is it something the guards turn their eye to, or do they know about the drugs, or is it all hidden?
So I would say it depends on the custody you're at. I was in a maximum custody, not because of my crimes. I just had a lot of like DUIs and driving to where I had to get sentenced on each charge, and then they'd send me to prison. I would be in prison, and then I have to go back to court for sentencing on the new charges. So when you have pending felony charges, they keep you in a maximum. And I would say in a max, it's set up for maximum exposure. Like, these guards can see everything. So it's really hard to get away with stuff. But if you get down to medium, minimum, if you're at prisons where you kind of have a little more time with the guards, the guards are more prevalent, like on the yard, like they can get touched.
Got it.
And because they can get touched, they tend to let some things slide.
Yeah. So you were at different prisons?
Yeah. I call it I don't know where we were the other day. I think we were at that event with Lieutenant Governor. I'm like, yeah, I did the NDOC prison tour. I know all the cities in Nevada because, they would ship me around. But the reason I got transferred sometimes was behavior, right? A fight or whatever. But most time is because my behavior was exceptional.
Wow.
I would always learn how to, most likely to get parole, how to get down to the lowest custody, and so I would, I was always getting moved to a better prison, or a better program would open up, and I'd be like, I want that prison job, and I'd get moved to that prison. So that's how and then a lot of these wardens, they weren't used to a guy like me, because I didn't really fit a mold. I wasn't some retard, but I wasn't a gangster, I was like in the middle, I guess you could say. But I had some massive skill sets. I was really good with prison paperwork and reading the prison rules. And a lot of the time, I would know more than our caseworkers. The caseworkers in prison are the ones that, they deal with helping you go home, helping you get to your lowest custody, helping you get rid of existing warrants, And so, but I would have all this information. So a lot of times they would use me and create a job where I could help them. So there was one prison I was at, and my job was help you get a birth certificate, help the inmates get a social security card. So I'd have all their socials. Like that's the kind of levels of trust I would get at prisons,
Wow.
Yeah, I lived good. I mean, for going to prison, I had the best possible life because I had the max, because I had the best access to everything. A lot of the inmates would give me their best access. So I'd get the best clothes, a lot of cool things. Yeah.
That's cool. You said you were in solitary for a bit?
Yeah. I mean, actually, well, yeah, I did do a little bit of solitary, but most time they put you on disciplinary. You're in the hole. You're still with a cellie because of prison overcrowding. So it's rare that you're by yourself. Maybe if you're on watch or if you're in the infirmary or something like that. Yeah.
You ever end up in the infirmary?
No, never. I had to go to a doctor a couple of times for some fights where we were all bleeding and stuff, but I didn't have to stay in the infirmary like that.
With the fights, was it bare hands or did you have a weapon?
So, the things that inmates saw when I was present, the yards that I'm on, these guys are serial offenders. They've done 20 plus years, and they would be like, damn, GQ, like I ain't never seen that before. The way some people would try to get at me, and usually because of jealousy, so I had to fight one of the biggest black guys in prison. He had a 450-pound bench.
Jeez.
And, he was huge. And he was just mad that I was helping people quash their warrants, and I was helping them like get their quicker release date. And I don't know how the conversation went, but he wasn't happy about something. And when he knew it was time to fight me, we had set it up where we were going to go somewhere safe because you don't want to get caught. You want to go to some, so if you can set it up, that's ideal. But this dude brought like a sharpened metal pipe wrapped in a towel. And then he walked up to me. He couldn't even wait his time to fight me. He's like, we can get it right now. And he swings back and this towel goes flying. It's his metal pipe. Yeah. Yeah, for reals. And then the first time he goes to strike me, I'm sitting on my bed and I lean back and I just block with my leg. And I still to this day have a huge, it went down to the bone,
Wow.
That was the first touch he got on me. And the second touch was I leaned back and gave him a right heel to the face and then jumped down off my rack.
He attacked you in your own room?
Yeah. Well, this was when I finally got down to minimum security.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people think the violence is at max. Yes. In maximum security, we're going through metal detectors like 10 times a day. Even when you're walking somewhere, they might just prop up a metal detector, hey, surprise, metal detectors, because people always have knives on them. But when you get down to medium minimum, you have more access. Usually people are going home, so there's less drama.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can go bad, and some dude can roll up on a sharp metal pipe, risk everything, and try to kill you.
Wow. Your life could have ended there. Yeah.
And then I had another situation. My first time with the knife was I was in a cell with a guy that had 3 life sentences, and he was always somehow getting meth sent. This guy was so crazy. And he was coming down right after Christmas. He's all down and he was all mad. He just pulled the knife out like this, That was the first time somebody came out with a knife.
Damn, he came at you?
He didn't try to poke me with it. He was trying to intimidate me with it. I told him to put it away. He didn't, so I kicked him in his chest. And then, believe it or not, when we went down to yard that day, a lot of the head white boys were mad at me. They're like, GQ, come on, man, that guy's got life sentences. Be easy on him. I'm like, the dude pulled a knife out on me. Yeah. So, but again, the best thing I learned in prison was how do you make logic with illogical people? How do you make reason with unreasonable people? And I got so good at that process. And then also you're in a world of extremely sensitive and violent people. And so to be out here on the streets, Like everything's easy.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do anything. Everybody's all talk. And here's someone that can back it up and is willing to do that. So people tend to just listen a lot more than they used to.
And you've been able to develop the skill of reading people very quick after developing that in prison, right?
So I had to read people like my life depended on it, you know? And you know, it's funny, people say like, oh, how would you feel if you're a woman walking through a parking lot in the middle of the night? Like, trust me, guys are just as afraid. Like nobody wants to be by themselves and see some random person. You have to be good at reading people. Absolutely. Otherwise you're going to waste your time.
Yeah.
Not just your safety.
Absolutely. You also had a crazy incident as a kid. You got hit by a car going 55, right?
Yeah. So I always had big ambition, you know, and it was Halloween night. I had two great ideas. One idea, I was 12 and I was like, you know, this year I'm going to do rollerblades and I'm going to get way more candy. And the second idea was I'm going to bring a pillowcase and I'm going to stack this thing up, right? And the third idea was horrible. I was like, wear army camouflage and then duck and dodge through streets so the car didn't see me. But still, you shouldn't have been doing 50 when there's kids on the street, you know? So yeah, I got hit at 50 miles an hour and I got kind of lodged in the windshield. Then the guy hit his brakes and flew like 30 feet.
Gee.
So yeah, for a year I was in a wheelchair, immobile, didn't go to school. And that was the first time in my life I realized like no one's coming for you. Like I was so helpless and I was in so much pain and I almost died, but there was nothing I could do to make myself better because the injuries were so bad. And I think that's when I got really good at making sure that I always took the best next step.
Yeah.
And I never worry about anything else. To this day, I always focus on, I tone down all the noise and I'm like, no matter what, right now, what's the best next move? And put everything, focus on that. And that's it.
That's quite the lesson at such a young age. I feel like that was a big wake-up call, right?
Yeah, more people should be getting crushed by trucks, man. You know, I'm a fan of personal growth, man. Go for it.
Did he stop or did he dip?
He did stop, but I think it's because I was in the windshield.
So you literally cracked that?
Yeah, no. So they say to get in a car accident, hit by a car, you either get hit and you go under.
Yeah.
You get hit, you go over, or you get hit and you bounce. I happen to be at the right height with this particular vehicle to bounce.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were stuck in it and then flew off?
I went into the windshield. I was stuck in it. And, you know, this kid was like 16 years old.
Damn.
Yeah, he's 16. He just learned to drive, you know. And there's a kid staring you down through the windshield, you know. But, yeah, went in the windshield and then he just slammed his brakes on. That wasn't really cool.
Wow. Did you get in a lot of trouble as a kid? Like high school, college ages?
I think I got into trouble when I was like 5th, 6th grade, you know. But it was all petty stuff. I think we're really sheltered and we grew up like in a kind of a nice, you know, environment. And so they maybe picked on me for little stuff, I'd say teachers. But I think what got me into trouble growing up was just being entrepreneurial, you know, wanting to sell drugs, grow weed, you know, those kind of things is the trouble I got into.
A lot of entrepreneurs start off selling weed, dude. A lot.
Yeah. It's
pretty interesting.
I mean, probably not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah,
legal,
yeah.
But like,
but correct. And when people talk about marijuana being a gateway drug, same thing for selling drugs. It's like you grow up sheltered and you do things a certain way, but when you have the opportunity to try something different, and then you realize, it's okay, you know, then you get used to crossing the line, and it's the line crossing that is the gateway. So you start being okay doing other things, you know. Yeah, that's why it's gateway. It's not like weed gets you addicted.
Yeah.
It's just it gets you comfortable being like, you know, I can do what the I want, you know?
For sure. I've gone back and forth on my opinion of that statement. I used to say hard no, like no way that it's a gateway. But as I get older, I feel like I mean,
what was the first time, what were some of the first things you were doing as a kid that you weren't supposed to do that you were like, oh, I can do this anyways and I'll be okay?
Yeah.
Those are gateways.
Weed was that big one for me. I dabbled with it for years before I finally took that leap into it. And then once I got there, I felt like it was easier to get into other stuff.
Yeah.
Because once you make that decision, it's like, oh, I tried that. Let me explore that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But on the flip side, same thing with business. You are getting comfortable taking risk, and look at yourself now. You are constantly a spear tip in all these new industries. That's why everyone looks up to you, because you are okay going into the unknown and be like, I don't care what anyone has told me. I'm going to try this anyways. I'm going to make it work.
Yeah. I think for me, a comfortable life, just not taking risks is too boring. Like I'm at the point now where I got money and I want to do some fun stuff with it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that you realize it's YOLO. Here you are, you're alive, and you only get your one life. And like, you've been exposed. Nick Santos also says, like, once you're exposed, you can't unsee it, you know, and you get to see all these great things and great opportunities and great triumphs. And that is a challenge. And you have one of those strong minds where you need that like super big home run all the time. And that's an amazing ability to have acquired at a young age.
And I love it, man. I have friends of all different types of income levels and stuff, but the happiest ones are the ones, like you said, chasing their purpose, chasing that drive. Even though it might not always work out, they just feel great in the moment.
Oh, yeah. Every day I am so grateful for the opportunity to fight. You know, everyone is always so worried, a lawsuit. You know, they're worried about somebody wants to beat them up. I had 2 guys try to rob me, you know, just last month, you know. I had a guy punch me in the face a year ago, you know, like people are always going to want to tear you down. Don't let the pressure get to you. The focus is this, man. The day you stop fighting is the day you die. The day you can't fight, when you can't fight, it means you're dead, right? So if you have the ability and the opportunity to fight, it's a great day. It's a great life. And I think for you, you've become addicted to the types of fights you take on. And I think maybe that might be the definition of success is, did you find the fights you like and did you go for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very competitive behind the scenes. I would say you're more confrontational, different styles, but we both love that competitive nature for sure.
Is that supposed to mean, dude?
You're more direct with your fights, right? I'm more tactical behind. No, you're tactical too, but I'm more like behind the scenes. How can I outdo this person in a different way?
Why?
I'd say my childhood, honestly, if we're going to be real about it. I didn't have a father figure. I was a shy kid.
Well, if I may speak, I mean, I was thinking about my dad today. Is like, my dad's the nicest guy ever. Hate it. He had no power. I didn't learn that from my dad.
Really?
Yeah.
So who was that father role for you then?
Me. Prison. You know, bullies. It was people that want to take everything I have always, and I'm just like, no. You know, I'm okay with the fighting, but to your point, that is my core strength is embracing confrontation. And let me just tell you why. I got lucky that I went to prison, even though I shouldn't have had to go. Going through that process and doing all those rehabilitation programs, I'll never forget my first day in a drug rehab program. They want to talk about confrontation and what healthy confrontation. I'm like, why are we talking about confrontation? We should talk about, like, you know, drugs and all these things, you know? And they said, no, like part of being part of society and building is like embracing confrontation. And people avoid confrontation because it's uncomfortable. That's why everybody's passive. You know, either aggressive is when I care more about me. I don't care about you. Passive, it's where like, well, I care about you, man. I want it to be comfortable. Assertive is like in the middle. We're going to dance, but we're going to be firm and we're going to get through it. And so learning to embrace confrontation in a healthy way, in a way that actually builds relationships. Because that's one interesting thing that I have learned is if you can end up at the end of a confrontation you can go through confrontation and end up stronger together. It can be one situation like, I don't want to tell him this, or I'm really upset about that. And then you can go through it and you could be even closer. You ever see people have a fist fight and at the end they hug?
Respect.
What is that? You know, like, why, like, you just tried to kill me. You know, 6 months on social media, we're talking and then we just had a crazy fight. We're like, I love you, dog. You know, what is that? And it's embracing that spirit of confrontation and being better together. And so for you, I wouldn't overwhelm, or for anybody, I wouldn't overwhelm areas that you're not embracing confrontation. I may pick one, and then I would have a game plan for like, what's the right way to approach it. The things I write about, I've written 9 books now, and they're all boundaries, being more assertive, enforcing boundaries, and we call that confrontation. You know, if you even are man enough to speak your mind and set a clearly articulated boundary, you're doing good. Most people can't even do that. The problem is, even once you set those boundaries, people cross them. What are you going to do?
Right.
People are passive. They just get walked all over. You see all these women that 10 years later, they report sexual. Why?
Yeah.
You know, like if there's a problem, you need to handle it. The question is how, right? Yeah. And so a lot of things I write about is what is the right way to embrace confrontation? And so I tell people, like, I like the 2 pros and a negative. Like, tell them 2 positives first. Be like, Sean, I really like you. Here, I'll do one right now. Sean, hanging out with you changes my life. Like, seriously, anybody that doesn't, the ability to drop your name makes my life better. You are a god and a powerhouse. I'm so grateful. I am a little bit thrown off because I wonder if sometimes you don't ever give me feedback. And I see certain things like, for example, you didn't give me the podcast guest list. And I'm like, well, does he not want me to go? You know, and if not, like, why? And like, is there something that I could do better to be there, you know?
Right.
Or does he want some other, like just always being assertive and being okay with that process will make everybody stronger. So just for you to get good at confrontation, just start doing it.
Yeah.
And do it in a cool way. And like I said, the people that run from it, they're not good people anyways, you know?
That's deep.
But also,
I love that. This year, it's been a focus to be more communicative, be better at conflicts, because it's something I have run away from in the past, to be honest. So,
is there one that's on your mind that you want to process?
we probably don't have time right now, but yeah, we'll definitely talk about it for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, it's been a blast. Anything you want to close off with or promote?
Well, honestly, I want everybody to obtain and achieve their peak happiness. And we all have our path. You're on your path. And the only reason you're getting thrown off is because of other people or the unwillingness to do what you must. And so what I would say is, like, pick up one of my books, go to jeremysigal.com. Everything I teach is to be more assertive, to set boundaries, and to stay on your path, because that's your life, man. It's no one else's. And I just want you to hit your greatest highs and give the most. Give your best strength and expertise to everyone around you. And keep that smile high, guys. It's a great life.
Bars, man. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks for watching, guys, as always, and I'll see you tomorrow.